The Subcommittee on National Security and the Subcommittee on Government Operations will come to order. Without objection, the Chair is authorized to declare a recess at any time. On June 12, 2016, Omar Mateen killed 49 people and injured another 53 in an attack on a nightclub in Orlando. The shooter made 3 calls to 911 during the attack. According to FBI Director James Comey, Mateen dedicated his attack to the Islamic State and its leader, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. During the calls, Mateen also expressed admiration for the Tsarnaev brothers, the Boston Marathon bombers, as well as Florida suicide bomber for the al-Nusra Front, a group that engages in terrorism in Syria. While some, such as Attorney General Loretta Lynch, were unsure about Mateen's motivations, the evidence points in only one direction. He killed in support of a terrorist ideology. Prior to the shooting, Mateen was investigated by the FBI. That investigation, which began in May of 2013, was more than just an inquiry. The FBI interviewed him twice, dispatched an informant to get close to him, conducted surveillance of his movements, and scrutinized his communications. 10 months later, the investigation was closed. Agents concluded that Mateen was not a threat and had broken no laws. He was put on a watch list during his investigation, but once the investigation was closed, he was removed from the list. 2 months after that investigation concluded, Mateen again came onto the FBI's radar when Moner Mohammed Abu Salah, a Florida man who attended the same mosque as Mateen, blew himself up as a suicide bomber for the al-Qaeda-affiliated al-Nusra Front in Syria. And he had gone to Syria previously trained, came back to Florida undetected, went back to commit that attack. The second investigation apparently ended when the FBI could find no connection of consequence between Mateen and the suicide bomber. Although the FBI's own investigation of its handling of the Mateen case is ongoing, there have been no suggestions that the Bureau handled the Mateen case any differently than the thousands of other terrorist leads that it receives annually. Now, both al-Qaeda's global network as well as the Islamic State, among several other terrorist networks around the world, promote a global jihadist ideology. As the Congressional Research Service has found, these terrorists use, quote, Islam as an ideological and/or religious justification for their belief in the establishment of a global caliphate, a jurisdiction governed by a Muslim civil and religious leader known as a caliph via violent means, end quote. This committee began to look at the issue of radicalization by ISIS and other terrorist groups on October 28, 2015, when we held a hearing entitled Radicalization, Social Media, and the Rise of Terrorism. The Orlando attack underscores the importance of the committee's investigation into the ways terrorists in the United States become radicalized. This investigation is relevant to protecting the public from future attacks. Now, the June 12th attack in Orlando, the July 14th attack in Nice, France, and other recent terrorist attacks in the United States and abroad committed by radicalized Islamic extremists targeting unsuspecting populations in vulnerable public places represents the prevailing template for terrorist attacks. In just the last 7 months, attacks in Orlando, Nice, Brussels, San Bernardino, and Paris revealed that ISIS has become successful at using a country's own population against itself. Indeed, recent reports indicate that since 2011, over 30,000 people from over 100 different countries have traveled to the conflict zone in Syria and Iraq to join the fighting there. This group includes over 4,500 Westerners and over 250 Americans, all of whom have joined or attempted to join extremist groups in an effort to wage jihad. Recent terrorist attacks have also shown that so-called lone wolf terrorism has become a growing concern for government and law enforcement agencies in the United States. Individual terrorists have proven capable of committing a wide range of violent attacks, even though those individuals had no formal connection to terrorist groups. These have included mass shootings, bombings, assassinations. The unprecedented speed with which such individuals are being radicalized by violent Islamic extremists is difficult for law enforcement to track and is straining the ability of government to monitor and intercept suspects. Part of this may have to do with the very technological advances that have otherwise improved our way of life. Research has shown that since the terrorist attacks of September 11th, the preferred method for recruiting radicals has changed. Before 9/11, the Internet contributed to only 3% of all radicalizations, but as of 2014, it contributed to roughly 20%. The evolution of radical movements may also play in the role in the speed by which potential terrorists become radicalized. Today, only 42% of radicals identify with a specific terrorist organization, compared to 63% between the 60s and 1990s. The long-term trend towards so-called lone wolf terrorism makes it challenging to stop terrorist attacks before they occur. Authorities have had far more success penetrating plots concocted by several different people than by individuals who simply choose to act on their own. U.S. policies regarding intelligence, military operations, and immigration should reflect this new reality. I thank our witnesses for their testimony today, as it is important that we continue to examine the issue related to radicalization by Islamic extremists and what can be done to combat this growing problem. And I now recognize the ranking member of the Subcommittee on National Security, Mr. Lynch, for his opening statement.
Thank you very